In today's episode, we're getting into where you might have gone wrong, how to fix that, and my tips for simplifying this process. We need spaces that inspire us, nurture us, support the life that we want to live, help facilitate the lifestyle that we would like to live. And so this is really important. This is very near and dear to my heart. So I want to share some of my tips for the bigger picture, like getting into what do you want this space to be? What is your vision for this space?
We will discuss mood boards, your signature style, color palette, floor plan, needs and wants, budget, and staying on track.
This is a well thought out process. There's no winging it. Yes, occasionally you might find something unexpected, along the way that you bring in and it's like, yes, this looks great, but the process itself is not winging it. It is incredibly thought out.
Be sure to visit my website, casaserenita.com. I'm including the link down below in the description to sign up for the newsletter and receive this guidebook. This is a more in-depth study with more instructions and details on how to thoroughly go through this process, and it will accompany this video very well. So be sure to get that. Also, please note, this is for a limited time that I am offering this for free.
What is the big picture? What is the purpose of the space? And how do we wish to live in it? Oftentimes we're overstimulated by Pinterest, social media, things that we see other people doing. There are so many design shows. Listen, I've lived this experience. I know how overwhelming it can be. And if you're like me and you like a lot of different things, if you're an eclectic person, you can find yourself wasting a lot of money and kind of bouncing around with different ideas. And so I want to make this process easier for you. I feel like it can be daunting. Sometimes we just need to walk away, but sometimes we give up and we never go back. It's very important to begin with a mood board. And for this exercise, I would like for you to go to Pinterest and start collecting images that represent the mood of the space that you're planning. So let's just use the living room, for example. I want you to collect images that represent the style and the feeling that you are looking for in your living room. This is an example of a mood board that I have created for the living room in our country house. And so after you have compiled your images, whether you keep them in Pinterest in a folder titled living room or whatever room you're working on, or perhaps you are handy and you can go into Canva and create something like that, or you're just downloading the images and saving them in a file on your phone so you can reference all these images when you're out and about shopping. But what I want you to do is take these images that you have combed through and identified that, yes, this is the mood I'm going for in my room, and I want you to look at what they have in common. I want you to look at, is there a wall color you're drawn to? Are there particular types of furnishings that you're drawn to? Accessories? What kind of window treatments do you like? What kind of artwork do you like? So this way you're starting to identify what is your signature style. Once you complete the assessment, you should be able to determine a color palette. Now, I would keep this simple. I would limit the primary colors or the main colors that you use to no more than 3, with 2 secondary or supportive colors. Just remember, the more colors you add to the palette, the more difficult it will be to create cohesion in your space. Another mistake that I see that people are making is they don't know their space. So maybe you've lived in your home for 10 years and you think you know the space, but the knowing your space that I'm referring to is knowing the measurements, knowing the dimensions of the room, the measurements of the room, noting on a plan, just making a simple floor plan on perhaps a piece of grid paper of the measurements of the room, so that way you know how furniture will fit into the space. You have something to reference when you're shopping, whether you're shopping online or in person, and perhaps you're looking for a sofa or a table or perhaps a whole set of furniture where you need to buy everything new for the home. You need this guide to assist you with your planning. Otherwise, you may purchase furniture that's too big or too small for the space. It's out of scale. It's not the right proportion. These are all things that you really must take into consideration. This leads me to investing in the right pieces. So if we don't understand the room, we don't know the dimensions of the space, then how are we to purchase, how are we to make an investment, a good investment in pieces that fit into the room? Something else to think about is how long do you want to live with this furniture? Are these long-term investment pieces? And if so, what kind of furniture will you be happy with long-term, like 10 years long-term or longer? Perhaps when we purchased furniture for our home, we were looking at pieces that we could keep for 20 years. That was very important to me, that I was buying pieces that both my husband and I loved, pieces that could be reupholstered if we ever decided to change the fabric on our sofa or the chairs. We opted for a big investment for our coffee table because to me, the coffee table is like a piece of sculpture in your living room. And so we wanted something that we truly loved, that felt timeless and classic, that was of very good quality. One other mistake that I see is not having a proper budget allocated for furniture purchases. And so people might think, well, I have such and such budget, but realistically that may not get you what you need. So planning again comes into the picture. And so creating a realistic budget is very important so that you understand how much money you're working with. And in order to properly determine your budget, you need to create a list of the pieces that you're wanting to invest in.
This brings me to the FF&E schedule. FF&E stands for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And this is essentially an Excel spreadsheet that lists each item that will be purchased, delivered, and installed for an interior design project. And even though you are not a professional interior designer, I still want you to approach this project just like one. You should take it just as seriously and be organized with this process.
If it's your entire house, then you're going to create a list room by room. Now, one thing that I would recommend that you do is, yes, if you can plan all of this, let's say you're doing the whole house, if you can plan all of this in advance, wonderful, because then you never know when you might come across a piece, especially if you're shopping secondhand, if you might come across a piece that could work in a different room. But my number one suggestion to you would be to focus on one room at a time rather than trying to tackle a few different rooms at once, because that's when you can get overwhelmed. That's how you can start to lose focus. Another thing to keep in mind is knowing your timeline. Now, what is your timeline budget? Like, as in, what is your time investment? How much time are you investing in this room? Do you have 3 months to get this room ready? Do you have a whole year? Would you like to have it ready in a month? So you need to think about that according to each room, and more specifically, the room that you're currently working on. So that way you can understand when you are shopping for furniture, shopping for furniture. I don't even know where that came from. When you're shopping for furniture and you see like the lead time or the time when it will be delivered, that's something you need to take into consideration, because some pieces are in inventory and you can receive it in a week or two, while other pieces may take a few months until they're able to deliver those pieces to you. And if you've got a room that you're trying to wrap up and finish within 3 months, that could be a big obstacle for you, and you could be left without a sofa for another month before your room is done while you have everything else in place. Another thing when we're talking about like what is your budget, it's how your budget relates to your timeline. So is this a monthly allowance of money that you have allocated for furniture purchases? Are you doing this over time and you've designated a certain amount of money each month to go towards new purchases? Or is this going to be a lump sum investment where you're buying everything all at once? When designing a space, this is your guiding light, so to speak. This is your roadmap helping you to create a space that's aligned with your vision. If it doesn't fit, like if you're out shopping and you see something, but it doesn't fit the vibe of the mood board, then you know it doesn't belong. When it comes to shopping secondhand, this becomes extremely important because I know how it is. You're in a thrift store and you see this funky little piece for like $10 and look at it and say, does this piece work in this setting? And I'm doing this because I'm pretending like I'm looking at my phone, because I've been in this situation where I've been at a thrift store and I saw this funky little wooden carved out thing that could mount to the wall. The vibe was a little more Mediterranean, and our vibe in our home is not Mediterranean. I liked the piece. I could have probably purchased it and reused it or sold it or something like that, but that was not my goal and was not my focus. And I realized this piece is not going to work in my home. And that's what you ultimately are doing here. You're making sure that you have the right dimensions of the space. You know the size of the space that you're working with. You know just how long that wall space is where you plan on putting the media console before you hit the window. You know just how much space you have there. You know just how much space that you will need to pass between your dresser and your bed comfortably. So it's this kind of thoughtfulness that will keep you from having headaches, and it will keep you from wasting money and wasting your time. If you come across a piece and it's not aligned with the vision of your mood board, then you know that piece will not work. This is a step that people miss all the time because they're not taking that time to really invest and visualize on the outcome. Without knowing the outcome, you will not know how to get there. It's like going somewhere without a roadmap. You really need to take this time to visualize the space, to find the images that support the look you're going for, that tell the story of the home that you are creating, that tell the story of that room. Without taking the time to do that, you're just making random purchases. It's like a matter of luck. And as I said at the beginning of this video, winging it does not get you a room that feels cohesive and feels correctly designed. And I want you to save your time and save your money and create a space that is beautiful, that you are proud of, and that you love. That's really important to me, and that's why I create these educational videos. So if you like what we're talking about here, be sure to subscribe because there will be more. And on that note, I want to say sending you so much love from New York. Mwah.